Good evening and welcome to Metro Focus. I'm Jenna Flanagan. New York voters head to the polls tomorrow to cast their ballots in the state primaries. For the Democratic Party, this primary pits a number of well-funded establishment candidates against a host of progressive challengers seeking to push the party further to the left. From the gubernatorial clash between Andrew Cuomo and Cynthia Nixon to the wide-open attorney general's race and the contest for lieutenant governor in the state Senate. This primary is shaping up to be a battle for the very identity of the New York Democratic Party. So joining us now with a primer on what's at stake and what we can expect are Ben Max, Executive Director of the Gotham Gazette, and Fred Mogul, State Politics Reporter for WNYC. Gentlemen, welcome to the program.
Thank you.
Hi there, Jenna.
All right, so first let's start off with the big race that everybody's been watching and talking about the most, the gubernatorial primary. First off, how much does Bagelgate weigh into this?
Well, I think Cynthia Nixon's bagel choice is probably not swaying too many voters. However, it's given her a chance to get a little more immediate buzz going into the final days of the primary. At the same time, we've seen Governor Cuomo make a number of mistakes, have some controversies swirling around him related to a mailer from the state party going to the Orthodox Jewish community. We think that we don't know how much the Cuomo campaign had to do with. So Nixon's had a few things working to her advantage, I'd say, in these last few days.
Now, of course, we see Governor Cuomo incredibly high in the polls, and it looks like he's crushing Cynthia Nixon. But Fred, how do you see at least the turnout for perhaps her base?
Well, it's a Thursday. Everyone from like the time you're in elementary school, you learn that voting happens on Tuesdays, whether it's in November or elsewhere. It's almost like the holy day of the week for voting. And yet here we are for various reasons voting on a Thursday. So we expect that to depress voting a little bit. We expect the weather to be off. That could depress voting a little bit. On the other hand, there is a lot of energy, particularly in the left wing of the party. People are angry about President Trump. People are fired up on the left wing. There was this big triumphant success that Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez had in the congressional primaries earlier in June, and so that's given people a lot of motivation. So I think we'll see a decent turnout. I think we'll see a higher turnout than we did 4 years ago.
I think one of the big questions is how much anger there is about Andrew Cuomo. We don't know. There's a lot of activists who are very unhappy with the way he's governed, believing that he's too much of a centrist, that he's propped up Republican control of the state Senate, which has allowed him to be a little bit more of a triangulator from his old, sort of Clinton branch of the Democratic Party. So we don't really know how much that's going to translate into votes for Nixon. People are frustrated about the subways. People are frustrated about a lack of voting reform, campaign finance reform, things of that nature. But it's very unclear how many votes that's going to translate to.
And corruption, we should just say that
Yes.
that Governor Cuomo's top aides, Joe Percoco was indicted and convicted. I've been surprised how little that stuck in a way, how little traction Cynthia Nixon has been able to get out of that, how many voters are infuriated about that. I mean, many are. I think, and primary voters are a special breed. They're people who follow politics and they're motivated to show up.
But of course, then again, we'll see if anybody can get some of those new voters, those non-voters into voters, as Ocasio-Cortez has said, to turn out for the primary. But as you guys were mentioning corruption, that does turn my attention to the other big race that we've seen a lot of money put into, and that's the state attorney general's primary.
So this is a wide open race. There's 4 candidates. It looks like Licia Eve is probably on the outside looking in, and the other 3 candidates, Letitia James, Zephyr Teachout, and Sean Patrick Maloney, it could be anybody's primary. We really don't know where this is going to go. If you want to believe the polling, they're all pretty close. So what's it going to come down to? Again, can Tish James get the turnout she needs in New York City? Are Zephyr Teachout and Sean Patrick Maloney splitting sort of their Hudson Valley upstate base? And Teachout's gotten a lot of boosts in the final weeks of the primary from the New York Times editorial board, from Bernie Sanders. Does that help her with that activist base that's so fired up?
Yeah, the third time really could be the charm for her. She tried it against Governor Cuomo 4 years ago, and did better than anyone expected, considering she had zero name recognition, although a very interesting and dramatic name in a way. So she quickly got recognition after a fashion, but she got about a third of the vote with no money to speak of. Then she ran an unsuccessful campaign for Congress 2 years ago, but inched forward a little bit. And I wouldn't have necessarily predicted her to cross the finish line and win it this time. But she has picked up some momentum, and those endorsements, I think, really speak to a lot of skepticism about Tish James, who many people considered the early favorite. She is a woman that a lot of people do respect. She's paid a lot of dues, come up through the ranks. But I think there is a lot of skepticism about her proximity to Governor Cuomo, to the Democratic machine, to the establishment. But she does have a lot of backing from that machine.
Well, speaking of backing from that machine, we've seen now in the commercials that I believe the state Democratic Party is attempting to package Cuomo, Hochul, and James as sort of a one ticket, even though that's not necessarily how it's going to look on the ballot.
Right. The ballot's separate for governor, lieutenant governor, and attorney general. So it all depends on what you've seen going in and how you feel about that package that the state party is backing and that Governor Cuomo is backing. You mentioned another very interesting race is this lieutenant governor primary with Jumaane Williams, the city council member, challenging Lieutenant Governor Hochul. It seems like he has quite a shot at an upset here. Her name recognition is not that high. And he certainly, because he's represented a New York City district and been active in New York City for a long time, could draw a lot of votes from those activists, and he's seen a lot of endorsements recently as well.
Let's talk about the state Senate. There's a lot of challengers to some establishment candidates, and that could actually shake up some of the makeup of the state Senate.
So we have these races involving the former members of the state Senate's Independent Democratic Conference, the IDC, 8 challengers to 8 incumbents, 6 of them in New York City. Those are races to watch, certainly, with varying degrees of probability for those challengers to pull those off. And then there's a few other challenges to incumbents that are worth watching that have gotten some media attention. The key here is if some of these IDC challengers win, that actually will add fodder to the Republicans' campaigning efforts in Long Island and upstate districts when they're trying to keep control of the Senate in November. So that's sort of an interesting fault line to watch coming out of primary day.
Right. So in Long Island, they'll say, look how far left the Senate is going. It's already a big talking point. And they would say even more so, do you really want to hand all of the reins of government to the Democrats and to this increasingly left-wing, breed of Democrats? If you have the governor and you have both the Assembly and the Senate, that will be something they will be running against, and it will be interesting. I think it's pretty safe to say at least some of the stalwarts in the Democratic Party, or at least the recent stalwarts, are going to fall to some of the IDC challengers, but we'll see which ones.
Are there any other races where we can expect to see a, oh my God, that person won moment?
Well, I think the lieutenant governor primary certainly is a possibility if Jumaane Williams pulls that off. I wouldn't be shocked, but I would be a bit surprised, and I think a lot of people in the political world would be as well. The other one I would name is the former leader of the IDC, Jeff Klein, who represents this Bronx and Westchester district. Alessandra Biaggi is challenging him. She seems to be running a very strong campaign. She has some name recognition in the area. Her grandfather used to represent in Congress. So that would certainly be a seismic upset if that one happened.
So we're running out of time here, but I do want to ask, because we've spoken so much about all things Democratic Party, is there anything any upsets that we might expect to see from the Republicans? Because this is also their primary day as well.
So that's one interesting thing, is that the Republicans totally avoided primaries in the statewide races. They decided on their ticket. They figured out ways to get some other people out of the races so they didn't have to spend money and energy fighting their primaries because they have a massive enrollment disadvantage for the general. So statewide primaries are off the table for Republicans.
Yeah, I think on Friday morning we'll kind of catch our breath, and I think there will be a lot of competition between now and November for both the statewide races, some of the statewide races, and in the state Senate in particular. Overall, we think of this as it's a midterm. The momentum will generally be shifting to the Democrats. But who knows? I've been pointing out that when a previous Governor Cuomo ran against an obscure, no-name senator from Peekskill, New York, that no one had heard of, for not a third term but a fourth term, it seemed like he had it in the bag, and then until he didn't. So we'll discuss the Marc Molinaro's prospects down the road, but I think there could be a little more competition than people are expecting.
All right, well, Friday morning looks like it'll be definitely interesting for the three of us. Gentlemen, I want to thank you both for joining us on the program. We'd love to have you both back to sort of post-mortem what it was that happened. But as always, thank you for your insight.
Anytime.